Pull over. Now. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't look at me. He just stared straight ahead, his voice low but sharp like a knife sliding through silence. I glanced at him. His knuckles were white, gripping the door handle. His face pale. Too pale. Why? I asked, trying to laugh it off, but my voice cracked. He didn't answer. Then I looked through the windshield. And I saw it. A white van. No license plate. Tinted windows. Closing in fast from the left. Too fast. And that's when I realized. We were being followed. I jerked the wheel and swerved into a gas station lot. My heart thumped in my chest like it was trying to escape. But when I looked at my husband again, he wasn't scared. He was angry. Furious. And that scared me even more. What did he know that I didn't? Before I could ask, he leaned toward me and whispered, "Whatever happens, don't say a word." Not yet. Then he got out of the car and walked straight toward the van. That was the moment I knew. Something from our past had just caught up with us. And we weren't ready. My name is Claire Thompson. I live in Asheville, North Carolina. I'm a nurse. A mom of 2. And up until that day, I thought my life was normal. My husband's name is Ryan. We've been together for 10 years. He's a mechanic. Quiet. Thoughtful. Always calm, until that day. We were supposed to be heading to my sister's place for her engagement dinner. The kids were with my mom for the weekend, and Ryan and I were finally getting a night to ourselves. The road trip was going to be peaceful, just the 2 of us, like the old days. But about 20 minutes before we pulled into that gas station, everything felt off. Ryan had been staring at the side mirror for miles. Not talking. Not smiling. Not even reacting to the music. I had asked him 3 times what was wrong. He kept brushing it off. Then the van showed up. It had merged behind us somewhere outside Black Mountain. I barely noticed it at first. But now I realize, it was the same van that had pulled in behind us at a rest stop 45 minutes earlier. Same scratches on the side. Same cracked left mirror. Ryan had noticed. I hadn't. He had been tracking it silently. And he knew something I didn't. After he stepped out of the car, I sat frozen, staring at the van as it rolled slowly toward the edge of the gas station lot and stopped. My palms were sweating. I didn't know if I should run or wait. My phone buzzed in my lap. A text. From Ryan. Lock the doors. Don't get out. I obeyed instantly. My eyes followed him as he stood just a few feet from the van. His hands were clenched at his sides. His head tilted slightly like he was trying to recognize something, or someone, behind those dark windows. Then the driver's side door opened. A tall man stepped out. I couldn't see his face, but I saw Ryan take a step back. Just one step. Then his entire body went rigid. I couldn't hear what they were saying. But I saw the man lift a hand like he was trying to calm Ryan down. Whatever he said didn't work. Because Ryan turned and walked back to the car with clenched fists and eyes full of rage. He got in, slammed the door and said, "We're not going to your sister's. We need to talk. Somewhere quiet." I was about to ask what was happening, when he added, "You remember 3 years ago, the night we got the strange letter in the mailbox? The one you burned without reading? You shouldn't have." That was when the world tilted for me. Because I did remember. And I had no idea how that letter could connect to the man in the van. Or why Ryan suddenly looked like a man who was preparing for war. We pulled out of the gas station. And the van didn't follow. Not yet. But deep in my chest I knew, this wasn't over. Not even close. We drove in silence for a while, the hum of the tires on the road the only sound in the car. I glanced at Ryan every few seconds. He didn't blink. Didn't speak. His eyes stayed locked on the road ahead, but his mind was somewhere else. Somewhere far, far back. I couldn't take it anymore. "Ryan," I whispered, "what was in that letter?" He didn't answer. "I thought it was junk," I said, trying to make sense of my own mistake. "No name. No return address. Just a blank envelope with our mailbox number, and a single sheet of paper inside. I burned it before you got home because it gave me a weird feeling. Like it wasn't meant for us." He finally turned his head toward me, his jaw tight. "It was meant for us, Claire," he said. "Me specifically. And it was a warning." My throat tightened. A warning for what? His eyes went back to the road. For what I did. For what I thought I buried a long time ago. We turned off the highway and took a winding road through the woods. The trees formed tall, quiet walls on both sides. The sun was dipping lower, making the shadows stretch across the pavement like long fingers. I need you to trust me, he said. I didn't tell you everything about my life before we met. There were things I kept from you, not because I didn't love you, but because I thought they'd never come back. He sighed, then rubbed his face. That man at the gas station. I know him. His name's Darren. He used to be my best friend. We were like brothers. I frowned. Used to be. He nodded slowly. Until he tried to ruin my life. Ryan finally pulled into an old parking lot near an abandoned lookout point. The kind of place only locals knew about. He turned off the car, but didn't get out. I was 23, he began. Living in Phoenix. I was working at a garage with Darren. We were both broke, trying to make something of ourselves. Then one day, this guy came in with a busted truck and a trunk full of cash. A lot of cash. I don't know where it came from, but it was dirty. And Darren thought we could make it ours. He paused and looked out the window like the forest might remember the story too. I said no. I wanted no part of it. But he did it anyway. He took the truck, ditched the guy somewhere outside town and ran off with the money. My heart started racing. But if he took it? They thought I did it, Ryan cut in. Because I was the last one seen with the truck. Darren disappeared. And I got arrested. Spent a year fighting for my life in court until the real owner of the cash showed up and confessed everything. Charges dropped. But my name was never clean after that. I moved here. Changed everything. Started fresh with you. I stared at him stunned. You never told me. Because I thought it was over, he said. Until 3 years ago, when that letter showed up. The same handwriting Darren used to use. Just one line on the page. You owe me. I felt cold all over. So he's back for what? Revenge? Ryan's jaw flexed. I don't know. But if he's here, he's planning something. And that van? That's not just for show. Just then, a loud crack echoed through the woods. I jumped. Ryan's hand shot out and pressed me back into the seat. Stay down, he whispered. Another crack. This time closer. Like someone was walking over branches behind the trees. Ryan slowly reached under the seat and pulled out a crowbar he kept for emergencies. I didn't even know it was there. He pushed open the door and looked back at me. If I say run, Claire, you run. Don't look back. I nodded, frozen in fear. Then something hit the passenger side window with a loud bang. I screamed and ducked. A rock. Someone had thrown it. Ryan rushed around the car and looked toward the trees. That's when we both heard it. Footsteps. Multiple. Coming from the woods behind us. He turned to me, eyes wide. Claire, get in the driver's seat. Now. I scrambled over the console as Ryan stepped back, keeping his eyes on the trees. He stood between me and whatever was coming. Then I heard a voice. Well, Ryan Thompson. Thought you could run forever. It was smooth. Familiar even. But filled with venom. Ryan didn't answer. Then the man stepped out of the shadows. Tall. Worn leather jacket. Face half hidden by a cap. It was Darren. And he wasn't alone. 2 other men flanked him. One carried a metal pipe. The other had something long and wrapped, maybe a bat. Ryan leaned in through the window and whispered, when I say go, hit the gas. Don't wait for me. I shook my head in panic. I'm not leaving you. You will if you want to live. He stepped back, faced the men, and dropped the crowbar on the ground. Then he held up both hands. I'm not running anymore, he said. And then Darren smiled. Good, he said. Because now we settle this. One way or another. I sat frozen behind the wheel, my hands trembling on the steering. I could barely hear anything except the violent pounding of my heart. Outside, Ryan stood like a statue between the car and 3 men who looked like they'd crawled straight out of trouble. Darren stepped forward. His smile was crooked, and there was something about it. Something too calm for a man who had just cornered us in the woods. Been a long time, Ryan, he said, his eyes scanning over my husband like he was sizing him up. Ryan didn't move. Didn't think you'd come this far. Darren chuckled. You think a man forgets betrayal? You left me behind. Took the easy way out. Started a shiny little life while I paid the price. Ryan shook his head slowly. You framed me. I lost everything too. But you got it all back, didn't you? Darren growled. New town. New name. A nice little wife who doesn't even know who you are. He pointed at me. I flinched. Ryan's jaw clenched. Leave her out of this. See, Darren said, pacing slowly. That's the thing. I don't want to hurt her. Not really. But you? You cost me years, Ryan. And I'm here to collect. I could barely breathe. One of the other men stepped forward, the pipe in his hand gleaming under the fading sunlight. Ryan didn't budge. I'll give you the money, Ryan said quickly. Whatever's left. You want it? Fine. But leave Claire out of it. Darren's eyes narrowed. I'm not here for the money. I'm here for a memory. That's when he snapped his fingers, and the man with the pipe lunged. Ryan! I screamed. He ducked just in time. The pipe whistled past his head, smashing into the gravel. Ryan grabbed the man by the arm and twisted hard. The pipe dropped. But before Ryan could recover, the second man tackled him to the ground. It all happened so fast. I opened the door, ready to run to him, when Darren stepped in front of the car. Stay there, he barked at me, or I'll make this real ugly. I froze. Ryan wrestled with the two men, blood trickling down from his lip. He was strong, but they had him outnumbered. Claire! He shouted through clenched teeth. Drive. I hesitated. I didn't want to leave him, but his voice was sharp. Final. So I did the only thing I could. I floored the gas. The tires screamed against the gravel as the car shot forward, straight at Darren. His eyes widened. At the last second, he dove out of the way. I veered hard to the left, circling the car around, and skidding to a stop just feet from where Ryan was struggling. He threw a punch and broke free for a second. I yanked the passenger door open. Get in. One of the men lunged again. Ryan grabbed the crowbar and swung. Crack. The man dropped. Ryan dove into the car and slammed the door. Go. I hit the gas. We tore out of the lot, gravel flying behind us. The rearview mirror shook from the motion, but I could still see Darren standing in the road, watching us disappear, his face twisted in a fury that made my stomach sink. We didn't speak for miles. When the silence became unbearable, I said, Where do we go now? Ryan didn't answer right away. He wiped the blood from his chin and stared out the window. That was just a message, he finally said. He could have ended me back there. But he didn't. Why not? Because he wants more than pain. He wants to ruin me. I swallowed hard. What do? We fight back, he said. I looked at him shocked. How? You said he wants revenge. You can't win against that kind of hate. He turned to me, his eyes clearer than they'd been in years. I didn't just run from Darren, he said. I ran from everything. But not anymore. Then he opened the glove box and pulled out a small, rusted key. What's that? I asked. He looked at it for a long moment before whispering. It's the key to where I buried the truth. Ryan held the key in his hand like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I kept my eyes on the road, but my thoughts were spinning. What do you mean, the truth? He didn't answer right away. His fingers were white from gripping the key so tightly. I could see the war in his eyes. Whatever he was remembering was still fresh, still bleeding. Finally, he said, there was a safe house. In Idaho. Off an old Forest Service road near Lake Cascade. That's where I left everything, before I disappeared. The money. The evidence. The files. I blinked, confused. Files. Ryan looked at me. I used to work undercover. Government stuff. Not officially, contract work. We were chasing a cartel funneling weapons and cash through private American banks. Darren and I were in it together. Until he flipped. My mouth dropped open. He nodded. He took a deal. Sold us out. I barely got out alive. But I took something with me. Something he needs. It's why he didn't kill me today. He wants it back. But I don't understand. Why didn't you ever tell me? He looked down. Because I thought I'd outrun it. You were the first real thing in my life after all the smoke cleared. I didn't want to drag you into my past. Too late. The sun was setting fast, casting long shadows over the road as we left the mountain behind us. My hands were steady now, but my chest was still tight. I was trying to put all the pieces together. Okay, I said, voice trembling. We go to Idaho. We get this evidence. Then what? Ryan's jaw tightened. Then we bury him. We stopped at a cheap roadside motel just outside Boise. The kind of place with flickering lights and paper-thin walls. Ryan paid in cash. We parked around back, out of view from the road. Inside the room, I collapsed on the edge of the bed, head in my hands. This is insane, I muttered. I married a man who's being hunted by a vengeful arms dealer. I'm sorry, Claire, he said softly. I looked up. Why didn't you just go to the police? Ryan sat beside me, his eyes tired. Because if I did, they'd look into me too. And if they find out I was operating off the books, with stolen files and unapproved surveillance, they'd throw me in the same cell as Darren. So you kept quiet, I whispered, until I couldn't anymore. We were both silent for a while. The air in the motel room was thick with unspoken fears. Then Ryan opened his duffel bag and pulled out a wrinkled, torn piece of paper. A hand-drawn map. He unfolded it on the nightstand. This road here, he pointed. About 7 miles into the woods. There's an old tool shed hidden behind a cluster of pine trees. The safe is under a false floorboard. I stared at the map. It felt like we were heading straight into the heart of something neither of us were ready for. The next morning, the sky was dull and overcast. We packed early and drove northwest toward the forest. As we got closer, the trees thickened, and the road turned to gravel. The tires crunched under us as we passed old hunting cabins and rusted signs. After almost an hour of silence, Ryan said, I had a brother once. I looked at him, surprised. He had never mentioned that before. He died when I was 15, he continued. Shot in a robbery at a gas station. Wrong place, wrong time. I remember the way the cops handled it. Like his life was just another case file. That's why I joined. I wanted to make sure someone else's story didn't end in a file cabinet. My throat tightened. But along the way, he said quietly, I lost track of who I was doing it for. I became someone else. Someone who made deals, cut corners, worked in the dark. And now? I asked. He looked at me. Now I'm just a man trying to protect the only person who's ever looked at me like I wasn't broken. I reached for his hand. We arrived at the forest entrance just after noon. Ryan guided me through the turns, his memory sharper than I expected. Eventually, we pulled up beside a rusted gate nearly swallowed by vines. Beyond it, nothing but trees. We parked and got out. The forest was silent, the wind barely touching the treetops. Every step felt louder than it should have. We found the shed 20 minutes later. It looked exactly like he'd described, abandoned, forgotten. The wooden boards were damp and splintered. Ryan pushed open the door. It creaked like a scream. Inside, it smelled like earth and mildew. Dust motes danced in the sunlight peeking through a crack in the roof. Ryan knelt down and pried up the floorboard. Beneath it, wrapped in old plastic and duct tape, was a metal lockbox. He pulled it out, laid it on the floor, and used the key. Click. Inside were files, pictures, USBs, and beneath it all, a gun. Ryan didn't smile. He just stared. This is it, he said. Everything I've got to bring him down. Just then we heard it. Crack. A twig snapped outside. We froze. Another snap. Ryan sprang up, shoving the contents of the box into his bag. Claire, he whispered, eyes locked on the door. Don't move. Then came a voice from outside the shed. Well, well. You always did lead us right where we needed to go. Ryan turned to me. Whatever happens, don't let them take this bag. Before I could answer, the door exploded open. The door flew off its hinges with a deafening crash. I stumbled backward, tripping over the edge of the broken floorboard, and hit the ground hard. Ryan was already moving. His hand shot to the bag, yanked it up, and ducked behind an old shelf that collapsed under the weight of his body. 2 men burst in. One of them, tall with a gray beard and a smug smirk, held a pistol. The other was stockier, face hidden behind sunglasses despite the dim light. Neither looked surprised to see us. Well, the tall one said, stepping over the debris. Took you long enough, Ryan. Ryan stood slowly, hands raised, the bag slung over one shoulder. You always did love a dramatic entrance, Darren. Darren. So this was him. The man who used to be Ryan's partner. The one who'd turned on him, and was now hunting him down. Darren chuckled. Gotta say, I didn't expect you to bring your wife into this little reunion. Sweet move. Brave, stupid, but sweet. I stood up too, fists clenched, trying to push the fear out of my voice. What do you want? He glanced at me with a smile that made my skin crawl. Relax, sweetheart. I'm not here to hurt anyone, unless I have to. He turned back to Ryan. We both know what I want. Give me the bag. Ryan shifted. You know I can't do that. Darren sighed like a disappointed parent. Still playing the hero, huh? Even after all these years? Come on, Ryan. Let's not do this. For a second, I could see it on Ryan's face. Regret, pain, betrayal all wrapped into one. But then he looked at me, and his jaw set. You betrayed everything we stood for. Darren's smile vanished. And you think the people we worked for didn't? You think they were clean? Ryan didn't flinch. I didn't work for them. I worked for the people they hurt. Darren's hand tightened on his gun. Then you're dumber than I thought. Suddenly, pop. A shot rang out. I screamed. Dust exploded from the wall next to Ryan's head. He dove to the side, dragging me down with him. The second man fired, shattering the window, glass spraying into the air like tiny stars. I scrambled behind the heavy workbench, heart pounding like a war drum. Ryan tossed me the bag. If something happens to me, Claire, you run. You run and don't look back. The flash drive in that folder has everything. Names, accounts, everything Darren's afraid of. Get it to the press, or someone you trust. I'm not leaving you. I cried. But before he could answer, Darren's voice cut through the chaos. You know how this ends, Ryan. You can't outrun me anymore. There was a pause. A long, quiet stretch of silence. Then Ryan stood up, slowly, hands out, as if surrendering. Maybe not, he said. But I can still end this. He stepped out into the open, his body blocking me from Darren's view. I wanted to scream at him to get back, to stop being the man who always put himself last. But Darren didn't shoot. Not yet. You always did think you were better than me, Darren growled. I was better than you, Ryan said, calm as still water. And that's why you're afraid. Darren raised his gun. And that's when Ryan lunged. They collided like freight trains, fists flying, knocking over shelves and tools. The second man turned toward me, raising his gun. Instinct took over. I yanked the fire extinguisher from the corner and hurled it. It hit him square in the head. He crumpled. My hands shook. I couldn't believe I'd just done that. I turned to see Ryan and Darren struggling, blood on both their faces. Darren landed a punch that sent Ryan crashing into the wall. He raised his gun again. Ryan! My scream jolted something in him. He ducked, kicked Darren's knee out from under him, and the gun skidded across the floor, right to my feet. I grabbed it, pointed it, hands trembling. Let go of him, I said. Darren froze. His lip was bleeding. You're not gonna shoot me. I didn't answer. He smiled almost proudly. You don't have it in you. Ryan groaned under him, trying to fight, but Darren was stronger. Claire, Ryan rasped, don't. But I saw it in Darren's eyes, the way he reached slowly toward his ankle, where another weapon was tucked. I didn't think. I pulled the trigger. The sound rang through the shed like thunder. Darren slumped to the side. Blood soaked into the wooden floor. Ryan stared up at me, stunned. I dropped the gun. My knees buckled. I didn't mean. He caught me in his arms before I hit the ground. It's okay, he whispered, holding me tight. You saved my life. I was shaking, crying, unable to breathe. Outside, the wind rustled the trees. But it was quiet now. Too quiet. Ryan looked around. Where's the second guy? I blinked. He was out cold. But the body was gone. And then we heard the crunch of boots outside. Someone else was here. Someone new. And they weren't on our side. We froze. The crunching of boots on gravel came closer. Slow. Steady. Measured. Ryan's arm tightened around me as he scanned the windows, the broken doorway, every shadow dancing along the walls. My heart hammered in my chest, a dull roar in my ears. The pistol was still on the floor near Darren's lifeless body, but I couldn't move. My legs were jelly. Another crunch. Closer now. Whoever it was, they weren't rushing. They wanted us to hear them, feel their presence, like they were enjoying it. Then a voice. Calm. Cold. Female. Well, that was a mess. A woman stepped into the light. Mid-40s, short blonde hair slicked back, tactical gear neat and spotless. She carried a suppressed pistol casually in one hand, like she was born with it. Her eyes were sharp, calculating, the kind that missed nothing. Agent Monroe, Ryan said through clenched teeth. Ryan, she said flatly. Always dragging civilians into things that aren't their fight. Her eyes flicked to me, then to Darren's body. Shame. I was hoping to let him rot in a cell. Then maybe you shouldn't have taken 3 hours to get here, Ryan snapped. She tilted her head. You called me. I called backup. You were the one who volunteered. She raised her gun slightly, not to aim, just to make a point. We had a deal, Ryan. You hand over the files and we wipe your record. You disappear. Quietly. But then you disappear with her and leave a blood trail halfway across the state. She had a right to know what happened, Ryan said. No, she said. She didn't. That was when I stood up. She's my husband. That is my right. Monroe didn't even blink. You pulled the trigger, didn't you? I swallowed. I saved his life. You complicated mine. Ryan stepped between us. We're done playing this game, Monroe. You're not taking the files. Claire is. Her brows lifted. Oh, and where exactly is she taking them? The FBI? The media? Who's going to protect her when the names on that list find out? I will, he said. Like you protected her today? She asked, gesturing to the blood, the wreckage, the shattered windows. You think they won't come harder next time? There was a long silence. Then Ryan said, maybe they will. But we're done hiding. Monroe sighed, then turned her back to us. She walked toward the door, then paused. I'll give you 1 hour. That's it. After that, I can't protect you anymore. And she left. Just like that. The woods swallowed her footsteps. For a long time, we didn't speak. Then Ryan turned to me, eyes full of things he hadn't said in years. You don't have to do this, Claire. You didn't sign up for this. I walked to the bag, pulled out the flash drive. It felt cold, light, and heavy all at once. I'm not doing this because I signed up for it, I said quietly. I'm doing this because they never thought someone like me would fight back. We burned everything else in the shed. Evidence, gear, files, everything that could tie us to this place. Then we left. No phones. No GPS. Just the flash drive, the road, and the setting sun. We drove through the night, switching cars 3 times, sleeping in shifts at rundown motels with creaky floors and thin walls. Ryan had safe houses all over the country. Some were compromised. Some weren't. It didn't matter. We had one mission now. A week later, I walked into the office of a trusted journalist, one Ryan had worked with before, and handed her the drive. Her face went pale as she scanned the names. This will take down people in Congress, she whispered. I know, I said. Print everything. And she did. What followed was chaos. Scandals. Resignations. Arrests. Some vanished without a trace. Others showed up dead. But the truth did come out. And even though the system fought back, people finally knew. As for us, we changed our names. Moved again. This time for good. Ryan took a job under an alias in a remote town near the Rockies. I started volunteering at a women's shelter, using a fake past but a real heart. We live quietly now. But sometimes, just sometimes, I see a shadow that lingers too long. A car that follows for a few blocks too many. A stranger's glance that holds a little too much recognition. And I remember. It isn't over. But we're still here. Still fighting. Still watching the rearview mirror. Just in case.